Hi, today we're going to do our lesson online with a video. We are starting chapter 9. The first lesson today is on functions. So the first thing we're going to do is learn what are functions. Okay, we're going to determine whether a relation is a function, and then we're going to write functions using function notations. Okay, so first let's determine whether or not a relation is a function. So what are relations first? Relations are sets of numbers that have a relationship to each other. So in this picture, I think it's very easy to see. So these are numbers in the domain, these are numbers in the range. This number 2 is related to 1, the 4 is related to 3, the 5 is related to 4, and the 9 is related to 7. Okay? And if we take a look at all the numbers in the domain, you can see that each of them are different, and they are all paired with one unique number in the range. Now, if this 2, though, however, was paired with two numbers, like in this case, 2 will be paired with 1 as well as 3, then this is no longer a function. Okay, so this is the definition. A function is a relation in which each element, so these 4 elements, each of the element of the domain is paired with exactly one element of the range. Okay, exactly one. So if you have 2, then it's not a function anymore. The domain contains all values of the independent variable, and these values are chosen and do not depend upon the other variable. Okay, so these are independent, we just choose them, they don't depend on anyone else. But these do. These are dependent variables. Okay, so they depend on the values in the domain, and it's because they're usually related by an equation like this, right? The x can be any number, but the y will be dependent on what x is. Okay, so that's why we call the y is the dependent and the x is the independent. Okay, so now let's look at some examples. Determine whether each relation is a function. Explain. Okay, remember we said that each element in the domain has to pair with exactly one element in the range. So that means each one should only appear once. But if they appear more than once, like in this case, 54 is paired with 112, and then if we come here, we can see that 54 is paired with 123 as well. So this 54 is paired with two numbers in the y, so that makes it not a function anymore. So this says it's not a function, right? And also 56 has the same thing. 56 is paired with 130 and 128. Okay, how about this one? 4, 7, 6, 3, 5, 2. These are all unique, and then they're all paired with just one number, so that means this is a function. Okay, so let's look at these. How about these 4? That looks like a function. Yes, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, they're all. And then how about here? Well, here we have the 1 is appearing twice. Okay, so they are paired with two different numbers, so this is not a function. Okay, if you have a graph, okay, now you can see that these are all like ordered, these can be ordered pairs, right? So you can graph these, like this could be a 0.46. So you could put them on a graph, and then on a graph, if you see them represented this way, you can use another way to determine whether or not it's a function. It's called the vertical line test. So you kind of like take a pencil, pretend that's your vertical line, okay? And then you just run that pencil across and see how many points it hits at a time. So here's 1 point, 2, 3. So it's going to hit a point, but they are not going to hit 2 points at the same time. Same thing here, right? So these are all points, and if you run the vertical line, you see that it only hits that line at one point, at one place at any time. But here you can see that, so let's say here's my vertical line, and I see it's hitting this point, hitting point, hitting point, hitting a point, and then I will hit 2 points. You see that? That means this is not a function. Okay, so the vertical line test shows that it passes through 2 points on the graph with the same x value. So for this x value of 7, it has a y value of 2 as well as 5. Okay, so it's kind of like here where you would have like a 2 and then it's like pointing at two different numbers. Here, let's see another one. Does this pass the vertical line test? Okay, is it a function? So if you run across, so far so good, but here you see you have a problem. I'm going to run into 2 points. And here again, 2 points. Here again, 2 points. So this is not a function either. Okay, another thing we're going to learn about is the function notation. Okay. First talks about the function rule. Basically, it's just saying this. What are the rules, what are the operations that you are using? So I'm going to write this down. So usually we write it in this form. Right? So here you have an independent variable. You're going to apply an operation to it, and that's times 2. So that's an operation, right? You're going to multiply this by 2, and then you're going to add 3 to it. So these are the rules, if you will, that will generate this output. Okay? No matter what you input. So if you input, so here's the rules. So if I input in here 1, what would be my output? Well, that's 5. The y will be 5. If I input a 2, that's 4 plus 3, my output will be 7. Okay? So these are the rules. This and this are the rules that I will have to follow to apply to the x to get the y. Okay? I can also write this. Okay? So this is a function where this is dependent on that. We call that this is a function of y is a function of x. We also write this in a different way. F of x, okay, equals 2x plus 3. Okay, so same thing, but instead of a y, we now write f of x, meaning this is the function, right? No matter what you put in there. So if I want to find the f of 2, that means x is going to be 2, okay, in this function. When x is 2, this means when x is 2, this function will be equal to 7. Okay, so f of 2 will be 7, f of 1 will be 5. F of 3 would be 9. Okay? So when you change the value of x, the output changes. The function changes accordingly. So that's what they mean by the function notation. Okay, so this is called the function. Okay, when they write it with an f of x. So this is how you read it. F of x is read f of x. Okay? So read this in your book. You're going to read this yourself. Okay, I want you to read this yourself. Read this yourself, and then do these questions. Okay, you will do the odd questions. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay, 11, 13. So do all the odd questions only. Check your answers in the back. And then when you come here, I want you to do 27. And then don't do 29. I want you to do 30. Okay? Do 30. Do this question. Okay? And then come over here and then do these 4 questions. And that will conclude your assignment for today. Tomorrow we will continue with the next lesson, 9-2. All right? Have a good rest of the day. I will see you tomorrow.